like to come as fast as possible? Thank you for coming, being here today. Okay, this is youth, people, and parents, and other people who want to come listen. A couple months ago, I got a phone call from Randy Simmons. I have no idea who his name was. He asked if he could come and talk to me. And with that, I did get some information. I don't want to say too much, but he's changed his life around. And with that, he's starting a daycare center over at Burville, and things are looking very positive for him. And I thought it'd be important for you to share his life journey and also share his faith journey. I'm going to leave it to you. Now, I don't know, as we're talking, people can interrupt, or you want to do your lecture first and do a quiz afterwards?
Well, more or less afterwards. I want to keep it so informal. I don't want it to be viewed as like a lecture. I just want to, it's Mother's Day, so my testimony is different. As you can all see, I brought my mother with me, so I'm on my best behavior.
Right up here.
So,
You're staying too? Cool.
And,
Here's some chairs. You're welcome.
and
So if you can interrupt you and ask questions, or
Sure. Anything they would like to ask.
Okay, good enough.
Okay. Again, like he said, my name is Randy Simmons.
And family's here.
Yes.
Where are they? There he is.
It's my wife, and my family, and my daughter. Where's she at?
Right here.
I'm right here.
Okay. So thank you all for coming. Okay. As I said, my name is Randy Simmons, and I'd like to thank Pastor Bruce and James for this wonderful blessing to share my testimony on Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Thank you. Okay, as you can see, this is my mother beside me. She passed away 19 years ago. So she didn't see me who I am today, so I carry her with me. So just letting you know that. All right, I want to thank my pastor, my brother, my friend, Pastor Wayne Ritzmiller. He's been wonderful to me and to my family. He married us April 13th as well. Since it's Mother's Day, I want to share my testimony a little differently than what I normally would. I don't want to scare no one or be graphic, because as I said, I've been in 40 different prisons in 23 years.
Say that again.
I've been in 40 different prisons in 23 years. I've been in 40 different prisons in 23 years, charged with murder, bank robberies, you name it, all kinds of things in my prior life. I won't go into all of that right now, because I just want to share my testimony on the lighter side. But at the end, anyone can ask any questions they like about prison, being a business now, or anything as such. Okay, so I just basically want to touch upon how it got to that extreme with me in my life, in hopes that the younger people can really think about how things, you may not think it can happen to you, but little things lead up to that, peer pressure as such. For me, when I began not wanting to listen to my parents, thinking I was smarter than them, not wanting to do my chores no more, nagging, feeling my parents were nagging me. Don't do this, Randy, don't do that. Don't hang with that boy, don't hang with that person. You know, and then when they get started with my parents' words, God, they're nags. So I would tell my friends, my parents nag me all the time, but the friends I was telling it to weren't really my friends. So that kind of escalated into me clicking up with the group of kids who really weren't doing the right thing. They really weren't focused on school or anything. They were focused on smoking cigarettes, drinking, and all kinds of other illicit things. My grades began to suffer, but I kept thinking in my mind that I'm different. It can't happen to me. I won't get in trouble. I want to play ball. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a preacher. All of these things, but without a parent's sight, smoking, drinking, lying, cursing, little things, so I thought. And I began to start hanging with the crowd of kids who were doing things that my parents were totally against. My mother was a devout Christian her whole life. Basically, from 7th grade on up, I didn't see eye to eye with my parents. So they put me in a foster home. I was in a foster home in Reading with a pastor, Angelo Richardson. That's when the abuses became, all the abuse came. My pastor, which was my stepfather and stepmother, on the surface they were God knows. But they abused us physically, mentally, and my little sister sexually. Now I was in 7th grade at this time, so I was pretty wild. So that was my first arrest for stabbing my stepsister because they were abusing my baby sister. So I stabbed her up. That was the first time I was arrested. Went through counseling. They shipped me away from there, shipped me back home to my mother, who was in Mohrsville State Hospital, working in a halfway house back and forth, trying to get the family back because we were all put in foster homes. And then from there, we moved to the projects. In the projects at this time, there was some everything going on. And my mother was on heavy medication, so from 7th grade on, I raised myself. My father was a pimp, so I would run to him and learn about the things that he did. So school no longer interests me. None of the chore stuff I never had to do again. I began a life of crime. The people I chose to hang out with, well, they were involved in some pretty bad things. You know, repeatedly I kept getting arrested for little things and carrying guns for people because the older guys wanted me to carry it because I was younger. Selling drugs for the older guys. And at this time, there was a lot of pimps around back then. I'm a little old, probably older than I look, but it was pretty bad back then. And so those were my heroes, you know, and I just wanted to be the best criminal I could be. You know, my mother, she was trying to make ends meet, you know, but out in the streets, there was a lot of money. A lot of money, a lot of prestige, so I thought. And that's how I lived my life. I don't know how, other than to say that through the blessings and the prayers of my mother, that I managed to graduate from high school. You know, and then even that much more, from 1978 to 1988, my brother-in-law got me a job at a place called NGK Metals. And you would think that a person with a little bit of brains would have used that to get his life together. But the type of money I was making back then, from 1978 to 1988, propelled me deeper into the illicit affairs and crimes and white-collar crimes. That's when I got introduced to white-collar crimes. I'm going to put this away, and I'm just going to share my story with you. Is that okay?
What's a white-collar crime?
Well, bank transfers and stuff like that. Like, say for instance, hypothetically, someone, Burnett's Garage or someone, I was to get their account information. I can wire transfer all his money out of his account into a fictitious account I may open in Philly, Chicago, Miami, and then send someone in with wigs on and get the money out. That's what I used to do. You know, I did that for over 20 years, all kinds of stuff. So I had lots and lots of monies. Everything that you can imagine I had in this lifetime through crime. But my point is, I managed to keep that job. I don't know how. I don't know how for 10 years. So after a while, I was tired of reporting in anyone. I thought I was invincible. I was thinking that, what do I need to work for? So when I quit that job in August of 1988, November, I landed in jail with a prison sentence. You know, and that's when the madness began, you know, in prison, because it's a dog-eat-dog world in prison. If you have anything, you gotta pay to keep people off of you. Or either you gotta be willing to kill. You know, it's not like today's jail. Today's jail, the guards control them. Back then, inmates controlled the jail. You know, so what I had to do was be ready to kill, you know, at any time. riots breaking out, people attempting to rape you. I have all kinds of metal in my face, eyes cut in half, chin cut in half, throat slit, where I had to grab knives with my hands, stab wounds, all from in prison over the years because I was determined not to let no one do nothing to me. And that went on for years. You know, I spent a total of 23 years in and out of prison. You know, but I always could hear my mother. Always could hear my mother, you know, and but I fought it because I was afraid. I was afraid to just say, you know what? The Lord is my shepherd. And leave this foolishness alone until I got a phone call from a chaplain in prison. Your mother died. Not too much longer, I got another phone call from the chaplain. Your son was murdered, shot in the neck with a .40 caliber gun. Not too much longer, another call from my other son, was shot 9 times. He's serving 23 years in the feds right now. You know, and I started thinking, oh my God, they're following behind me. You know, and it started working on me and working on me. I wasn't allowed to go to no funerals. In the feds, you're not allowed out of the jail to go to no funerals no matter what the situation is. No matter how much money you got, you can't pay the feds. You're guilty. You can't get out. You know, so I started just fasting and crying and praying, and my mom used to do for me, and I used to think she was crazy all the time, you know what I mean? I would wake up, she would be staring at me, you know, grand old lady. You're not my son acting like this. She used to wait up for me, and I was a grown man with the lights on, you know, and it was rough. It was rough. You know, and then in there, when I began to accept Jesus as my Savior, all my old cronies and friends, they turned on me then. You know, so I'm walking, Psalms 23, I'm walking through the federal maximum security prisons, you know, and carrying a knife, but carrying a Bible, you know, because I don't know what I'm going to have to do. You know, long story short, I go to the prison officials and I say, listen, help me. The chaplain, I used to go there with him privately because I didn't want no one to know, because my father was with Farrakhan. My mother was a Christian, so I was in with the Muslims because I used to do crimes for them out of Philadelphia and Sister Claire's white-collar crimes. So I was cool with the Muslims. You know, and people thought I was Muslim. Then some thought I was Christian, you know, because I could go anywhere, because they named me Jules because I know how to work paper. But when I went to the pastor and I said I had enough, you know, and he said, do you mean it? And I gave my life to God, and I said, you know what? No matter what, I'm not turning back. I'm not turning back. And he started mentoring me. He started talking to me. He graduated from Liberty University. My counselor worked with my pastor. And I said, I would like to go to college. And he said, are you serious? I said, yes. So they got correspondence courses through Liberty University for me. And I said, I need a job. My mom was gone. I didn't have no income no more. All my money ran out. No friends no more. I no longer was that Jules guy. I was just a guy following the Lord, humble by all the things I've been through, afraid to die. First time in my life, I was afraid to die. I'd never been afraid to die or killed. But I was afraid at that time. And I used to talk to the pastor all the time. And he says, listen, the Lord is your shepherd. Don't worry about nothing. And I started walking. They also got me involved with Pennsylvania Business Institute while I'm doing correspondence courses at Liberty, both full-time, pursuing business. You know, and they got me a job in the education department as a tutor to help out. In the prisons, the majority of people are from Philadelphia or Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is the minority in the feds. Philadelphia is the minority in the state system. I was in but so I began tutoring people, and I started realizing how, you know, we're so lucky in Pennsylvania as far as education is concerned. I met people who don't even know 2 + 2. Grown men, killers, drug addicts. And I began mentoring to them, and I had to use drugs. as examples for them to really